Yes, folks, we are back. We're back here once again. This is Hector, your host here of Valley Views on KROJ, and we are continuing our Meet the Candidates 2022 series here on Valley Views on KROJ. And today we have with us here a candidate, Kenneth Mejia, who's a candidate for LA City Controller. First of all, Kenneth, good afternoon or good evening, really. How are you today?
I'm doing good, Hector. Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. It's our pleasure to have you here and just to get to know a little bit more about your candidacy and your campaign. And so you're running for city controller. Tell us a little bit about, first of all, what does that role of controller do?
Great question. So a lot of people don't know what the city controller is or what he does or she does. And basically, the city controller is the city's accountant and auditor in charge of the city's finances, in charge of making sure that taxpayers know where their money is being spent and making that information basically easily accessible, and also holding the city accountable as the city's watchdog and the auditor as well.
Yes, yes. And why is it that you yourself then have decided to join this race for city controller?
So I decided to run for this position because, as just mentioned, the city controller is the city's accountant and auditor. I'm a certified public accountant. I have 11 years of accounting and auditing experience. I'm the only CPA running, and I feel that it's essential to have a progressive city controller who can go in there, who has experience, on the ground experience on diving into finances and details, because right now it's tough to find out where your money's being spent, how to use the city's websites. And I think, this position's been around for over 100 years, and the fact that no one knows about it just goes to show, how little outreach and community engagement there has been with this, with voters, with Angelenos, about how just important this role is as the city's oversight person.
Yes, absolutely. And, part of that comes with, some of the roles, for example, and issues that, you'll have to tackle then, like affordable housing. And so tell us a little bit about what would be your plan as a city controller to, look at housing and really affordability here in the city of LA, because as we know, this is not a cheap city to live in. We have a lot of folks that experience housing insecurities. We have our unhoused neighbors as well, the homeless crisis. But what do you think in that role of city controller that you'll be able to do to alleviate some of the issues going on with housing here in our city?
That's a great question. And, just to tell the viewers, the city controller is not in a policy making position. We can't pass laws. We can't, allocate money. That's the city council. But we do affect policy and finances by providing information, by providing these audits, and, specifically for housing. You mentioned it, right? I mean, it's unaffordable to live in LA. Need to make over 80 grand a year to afford the asking rent of an apartment here. So our campaign, since it's really strictly focused on data and transparency, we've actually created a website called affordablehousing.mejiaforcontroller.com, and we actually detail where all the affordable housing units are located in the city of LA. And basically, when people go on this map, they could see where the city has these affordable housing covenants in these apartment buildings. So right now in the city of LA, the housing department shows where affordable housing units are located in 100% affordable housing buildings, but many of the time you don't see the affordable housing in the mixed income buildings. As many of you are listening, many of the new apartments being built are like the new luxury apartments, right? But what people don't know is that 10% or 30% of the housing in the 30% of those units actually are dedicated to low-income housing. So as city controller, and what our campaign tries to do is make this information transparent. And the funny thing is the city actually hired a contractor and paid them $2 million to create this. And essentially, we don't know what the status is on that, but we created this website that actually helps people find low-income housing. And so, that's one thing we want to do. We're also providing transparency on on the fact that there are over 10,000 units that are going to be losing their affordable housing covenants, meaning that many of these families are going to see their rents go from $800 to $3,000. And so what we're doing is providing transparency around that too, so that we could aid policymakers to focus on these issues before a huge eviction crisis happens.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a challenge, and something that many folks are definitely worried about as well. And you mentioned data, and one of the things that we recently also saw on one of your posts, and just curious as to as a city controller candidate, and the data you put up on your Instagram there, a comparison, City of LA payroll transparency, and you put a statement there, or excuse me, some data there related to a social worker making starting salary, I guess, of about $61,241, and the average salary about $79,000, and an LAPD officer starting salary about 80,000, and the average salary being 109,000 for lieutenants and below, and an average salary for a captain being $183,000 and more. Like, just wondering a little bit about why this data?
Yeah, so our campaign is really focused on radical transparency, putting numbers out there. A lot of people don't know these facts about how much we pay social workers, or how much we pay police officers, or how much we pay fire employees, or city council members. And so our campaign is actually working on a database that provides all City of LA employees salaries, their overtime, and pay, because the public deserves to know how their money is being spent. And I feel like if people know where their money's going, if they're able to see how the city employees are performing, then they can have a say in how their money gets to be spent. And so that's the reasons why I like to show these comparisons, or just how much city employees do make, so that people are aware of where their taxes are going.
Yeah, and definitely, I mean, with a budget of over $11 billion, it's good to know where our tax money goes. And one of the things that you put on your platform, Kenneth, is talking about auditing the Mayor Garcetti's Green New Deal, and being able to hold city departments accountable in meeting the goals of the said Green New Deal. Can you talk a little bit more about that particular plan?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, the Green New Deal for LA was released years ago, but no one knows what happened to it. We're supposed to reach planting our amount of trees that we wanted last year, but we're not even close. And so essentially, we need to move to 100% clean renewable energy as fast and as soon as possible. And the Green New Deal, there's just no accountability on the process so far. The spending that's around moving towards a green, clean future. And so that's what we want to do. Is the environment's important to people, and if people don't know if we're hitting benchmarks, or if we're if we're not spending enough money, or we don't even know where we're spending the money, then I guess time will pass by and things will just get worse for us environmentally.
Right. And it seems like part of the some of these audits is to either one, expose, or also just bring about more efficiencies in some of these programs. And what about curious as well, another audit plan that you have, and maybe the reasonings behind that, the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. So you want to audit some of their plans to achieve zero emission energy, as well as looking at details and publicizing details of agreements that they've made, and making them as easy as possible to read. Can you kind of explain and elaborate a little bit more on that plan?
Yeah, I think the LADWP, they have a huge budget. It's over $10 billion, similar to the cities, the operations, and essentially no one really knows what's happening over there at LADWP. And we want to make sure that what the LADWP does coincides with the city's goals of reaching to zero emissions energy. And so that's what we want to sort of provide that transparency around. A few years back, there was a huge scandal where the LADWP was overbilling people uh, a lot, millions of dollars, and it showed that there was collusion and corruption happening with those with some of the people at the top of the LADWP. And who suffered the most? It was the taxpayers. And from when we talk to people, they tell us audit the DWP because my bills are getting ridiculously high. And that's what we want to do. We want to make information, the rates that they're paying, make sense to people and why they're paying the rates that they are. And so the auditing the LADWP is one area that we want to get into.
Yeah, and and with that, wanted to just touch upon both like housing again, but going back into our unhoused neighbors, the housing crisis that we've had for a while now, and with that, we had a Proposition HHH, which was a bond measure about $1.2 billion to curb some of these housing and our unhoused neighbors situations going on throughout the city. What do you think yourself as a city controller can do to look at Prop HHH and those funds that are to address both homelessness and just housing in general?
Yeah, I mean, Controller Galperin has been doing a good job on providing transparency around that. I think, we want to build on that too. I think, as a CPA, as an accountant, I would love to look into the project costs and the income statements, look at the cost of goods of these projects as to understanding why do they cost the way it is. Why is one project over $800,000 a unit? Why is the average around over $500,000? And I think having that background and really diving deep into these projects, looking into how much the developer's making in profit, how much is the land, the materials, the labor. I think that will provide a very clear explanation as to why these costs are up, and then finding out, can this get lower. One thing I want to mention about Prop HHH is that many of these projects, even though they average around over $500,000, I just want to remind to taxpayers and to Angelenos is that only a small portion of that, about 20% of the 500,000 is actually HHH money. So around $100,000, and then the remainder of the funds is coming from private public partnerships. So because when people see like $800,000, they think, oh my God, all my HHH tax money is going there, but it's a very small portion of that is actually HHH money.
Okay, though that's definitely good to know. And then what about just in general as a CPA and someone that is running for a city controller office? What's your view and take on our current city budget? Where we have over about 46% of that $11 billion or so going into fire and police, and everything else that we have with it. But do you think the current budget actually represents Angelino's values?
Yeah, I mean, so we have an annual budget of $11.4 billion. Our campaign has done its very best on making that information transparent. We even put up a billboard in the middle of LA on Olympic and Crenshaw that shows you how much we spend on homelessness, how much we spend on housing, how much we spend on transportation, how much we spend on the police. And, I feel like there needs to be more participatory budgeting. The People's Budget LA has done a great job in trying to get people to say what they want to see in their budget. And so, like you mentioned, close to 30% of the city's budget goes to the police right now. We only spend 2% on housing. We spend 7% on homelessness. And, those three are like one of the big top issues. And I feel like there are better ways, and you can reallocate funding. And so definitely, but in order to do that, people need to know what's in that budget. And I think the fact that not a lot of people know what's in it and they don't know what that money is getting spent towards, it makes it harder to advocate for that. And so our campaign is really, during budget season in April, May, and June, we actually do a lot of sessions, Zoom sessions, teaching people about how to get involved, how to make their voices heard, so they could see, have a say in the budget process. Because it's a big budget and people deserve to have their voices heard.
Yes, absolutely. And what about just in general? what do you think coming into office would be some of either your changes or just innovations for the actual city controller's office?
Yeah, great question. One thing is that we are gonna be super educational. Like mentioned, 9 out of 10 people don't even know this position exists. So our campaign has been doing its very best to educate people, about the city's finances, whether that's putting up a billboard, whether that's us knocking on doors, leaving door hangers, tabling at campuses or in busy sections, just trying to explain to people where their money's going. I think just having that open role on teaching people how to use the controller's website, how to understand taxes, how to understand how to use this, how to use the city's website, and then actually taking that information and then advocating for change at your next city council meeting. I think education is key, and I think knowledge is power. And so the more people understand how the city works with their finances, the better that they can actually like advocate for those resources. So definitely education, and also just keeping an open line of communication, whether that's through text, whether that's through knocking on doors, but just always being there talking to people. A voter called me today because I texted him, and he's like, "Oh my God, is this Kenneth?" I'm like, "Yeah, this is Kenneth." And then he was actually really excited that he got to talk to me. And I want to prove that the city is not just this entity that's corrupt or they ignore their constituents, but an office that could actually connect with people on the ground and really consider their voices and make it heard.
Yes, yes, and then since you brought up just corruption in general, do you think that the city of LA there is some type of corruption when it comes to the spending of our taxpayer funds, and if so, what do you think you as a city controller can do to eliminate that?
In the last 3 years, 3 city council members have been indicted, and that's when you talk to voters in LA, they're sick of it. And it also makes it hard for people like us who truly care about making changes, because so many voters have become apathetic, especially younger voters, because they see that it's pointless, or their voice is not heard, or their vote doesn't count. But I would say from a city controller position, I think definitely around there is inefficiencies, there is waste that can be rooted out. We were like what I mentioned earlier. We created a affordable housing website that the city paid a vendor $2 million to do, and we did it in a span of 1 week. And just things like that, where we can actually look at city contracts, with whether it's with nonprofits or it's with third-party vendors, scrutinizing and checking the performance measures to see like it's actually being hit, doing daily audits on some of our highest paid city employees to make sure that the hours they work there are legit. We were featured on the news because we found out that there were city of LA employees in fire making over $500,000 a year, mainly in overtime. And it's like you could be a millionaire working for the city, and I think that doesn't sound right. At least it needs to be looked into. And I think as a CPA, as an auditor, I really want to get down to that, put the information out there, and provide that transparency.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, as we're kind of wrapping it up here, just of course want to thank you for being here, providing some information about your platform campaign, your vision, and then also just what are some final words that you just want to leave our audience with?
I hope to earn everyone's support. My website is Mejia for controller.com. So actually born and raised here in the Silmar, the exit over on Hubbard Street. Raised in a Catholic household, and shout out to all my friends from St. Ferdinand and Poverello, and all of them who here in the valley who raised me. I mean, I wouldn't be who I am if it wasn't for the San Fernando Valley, if it wasn't for Silmar, Pacoima. Just being out here, I feel like these are my roots, and I'm just a down to earth person with a CPA trying to change the world here, right? And hopefully you all can check out our website and vote for us come June 7th.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kenneth Mejia, for LA City Controller, for being here with us. We want to thank our entire audience for just being here with us on Valley Views. We're going to continue to do some more of the Meet the Candidates 2022 series. So in the meantime, I want to wish you, on behalf of here, Angel, my crew member today here in the control room here with me, just want to wish everybody much love and peace. And we'll see you on Sunday, everybody. Take care, y'all.
Yo, it's Fernando. Shouts out to Valley Views, man. They played me on the station. I was like, let me make you a jingle. So this is my jingle I made for them. This is what I had to do. This is Valley Views. This is what I had to do. This is Valley Views. Got me singing like, hey, hey, hey. So what you want? Got me singing like, hey, hey, hey. So what you want? Got me singing like, hey, hey, hey. So what you want? Got me singing like, hey, hey, hey. So what you want? I wasn't tripping when I lost my job. No reason to lie to my mom. Now I've got 8, 9 to 5, y'all. I was like, right on, right on, right on. No work on weekends, eh? Waking up early, sleep at 8. I think I'm surely